Hello, I'm Carla Miranda. I graduated from EMA in 2015.
I have graduated about 10 years ago in 2012.
I graduated from the EMA program in 2014.
I graduated from EMA in 2017.
2007.
2012.
2016.
2008.
2011.
2016.
I work for the civil society on the right to defend human rights.
I live in Phnom Penh and I work for the United Nations Resident Coordinator Office.
I live in Kathmandu, Nepal and work on transitional justice advocacy and victims movement.
I live in Bratislava, Slovakia, and one of the things I am responsible for is PR of our national human rights institution.
Immediately after that, I took up a position with UNHCR in Afghanistan, where I worked on refugee protection.
I'm happy to also be the ambassador for the Global Campus Alumni for Human Rights and the EMA program in Austria.
I support UN-wide coordination to speak with one voice on human rights issues in Cambodia.
I currently work for the city of Ostend in Belgium, where I help coordinate a project on sustainable urban development.
I'm focusing my research in the field of democratic theory and democratic processes and interculturality.
I became a founder of a digital bank in Pakistan with the goal to empower millions of people and businesses.
My work consists of promoting international humanitarian law to weapon bearers.
And I work on women empowerment and GBV prevention and response.
Really a great experience for me, not only for the great friendships that I made, but also the professional connections.
And I have to say that the EMA has given me more than I could ever have imagined.
Help me understand how to put human dignity at the center of the revolution of our time.
I can say that EMA was really instrumental in allowing me to gain the experience I really wanted to gain immediately after the master.
For opening a lot of doors for me and for helping me grow not only professionally but also personally.
The best human rights education and a great network of human rights practitioners.
And I am very happy to be part of the celebration of its 25th anniversary.
Thank you, EMA, and happy 25th anniversary.
So, merci. Asante sana.
Muito obrigada.
Ďakujem.
Dhanyavad.
Tack så mycket.
Dank u wel.
Ďakujem.
And gracias.
Thank you very much and bye-bye.
I'm Carla Miranda. I graduated from EMA in 2015.
I have graduated about 10 years ago in 2012.
I graduated from the EMA program in 2014.
I graduated from EMA in 2017.
2007.
2012.
2016.
2008.
2011.
2016.
I work for the civil society on the right to defend human rights.
I live in Phnom Penh and I work for the United Nations Resident Coordinator Office.
I live in Kathmandu, Nepal and work on transitional justice advocacy and victims movement.
I live in Bratislava, Slovakia, and one of the things I am responsible for is PR of our national human rights institution.
Immediately after that, I took up a position with UNHCR in Afghanistan, where I worked on refugee protection.
I'm happy to also be the ambassador for the Global Campus Alumni for Human Rights and the EMA program in Austria.
I support UN-wide coordination to speak with one voice on human rights issues in Cambodia.
I currently work for the city of Ostend in Belgium, where I help coordinate a project on sustainable urban development.
I'm focusing my research in the field of democratic theory and democratic processes and interculturality.
I became a founder of a digital bank in Pakistan with the goal to empower millions of people and businesses.
My work consists of promoting international humanitarian law to weapon bearers.
And I work on women empowerment and GBV prevention and response.
Really a great experience for me, not only for the great friendships that I made, but also the professional connections.
And I have to say that the EMA has given me more than I could ever have imagined.
Help me understand how to put human dignity at the center of the revolution of our time.
I can say that EMA was really instrumental in allowing me to gain the experience I really wanted to gain immediately after the master.
For opening a lot of doors for me and for helping me grow not only professionally but also personally.
The best human rights education and a great network of human rights practitioners.
and I am very happy to be part of the celebration of its 25th anniversary.
Thank you, EMA, and happy 25th anniversary.
So, merci. Asante sana.
Muito obrigada.
Ďakujem.
Dhanyavad.
Tack så mycket.
Dank u wel.
Ďakujem.
And gracias.
Thank you very much and bye-bye.
Hello, I'm Carla Miranda. I graduated from EMA in 2015.
I have graduated about 10 years ago in 2012.
I graduated from the EMA program in 2014.
I graduated from EMA in 2017.
2007.
2012.
2016.
2008.
2011.
2016.
I work for the civil society on the right to defend human rights.
I live in Phnom Penh and I work for the United Nations Resident Coordinator Office.
I live in Kathmandu, Nepal and work on transitional justice advocacy and victims movement.
I live in Bratislava, Slovakia, and one of the things I am responsible for is PR of our National Human Rights Institution.
Immediately after that, I took up a position with UNHCR in Afghanistan, where I worked on refugee protection.
I'm happy to also be the ambassador for the Global Campus Alumni for Human Rights and the EMA program in Austria.
I support UN-wide coordination to speak with one voice on human rights issues in Cambodia.
I currently work for the city of Ostend in Belgium, where I help coordinate a project on sustainable urban development.
I'm focusing my research in the field of democratic theory and democratic processes and interculturality.
I became a founder of a digital bank in Pakistan with the goal to empower millions of people and businesses.
My work consists of promoting international humanitarian law to weapon bearers.
And I work on women empowerment and GBV prevention and response.
Really a great experience for me, not only for the great friendships that I made, but also the professional connections.
And I have to say that the EMA has given me more than I could ever have imagined.
Help me understand how to put human dignity at the center of the revolution of our time.
I can say that EMA was really instrumental in allowing me to gain the experience I really wanted to gain immediately after the master.
For opening a lot of doors for me and for helping me grow not only professionally but also personally.
The best human rights education and a great network of human rights practitioners.
And I am very happy to be part of the celebration of its 25th anniversary.
Thank you, EMA, and happy 25th anniversary.
So, merci. Asante sana.
Muito obrigada.
Ďakujem.
Dhanyavad.
Tack så mycket.
Dank u wel.
Ďakujem.
And gracias.
Thank you very much and bye-bye.
Democratization, EMA, 2021-2022, and inauguration of the academic year 2022-2023. Before the program starts, one important piece of information. After 2 years of restrictions, we are finally able to organize this ceremony in its full-fledged format, with participation of the entire EMA community of graduates and their families, new students, professors, staff, and invitees. We are very happy for this. Still, among the lessons learned during the pandemics is the fact that we have means to reach out to our larger constituency of alumni, university colleagues around the globe. So to allow their participation, the ceremony is being live streamed through our Facebook channel with the wish to unite the broader GC community. Thank you. And now I invite the musicians, the interpreti veneziani, to come on stage. Interpreti veneziani will play for us Concerto per violino, archi e cembalo, RV 312 of Antonio Vivaldi, to accompany the solemn entrance of the rectors and professors of the Global Campus universities. And now the welcome address by Professor Manfred Nowak, Secretary General of the Global Campus of Human Rights.
Distinguished guests, keynote speakers, rectors, and musicians, they're gone now, dear faculty, students, and families. This is a moment of joy as our student cohort of the 21-22 successfully defended a master's thesis yesterday and will now be awarded a well-deserved joint Master of Arts degree. For the new students of the 22-23 generation, it is also a moment of joy to have been selected among many other competitors to have arrived safely in Venice and to be formally inaugurated today. Moreover, it gives me a feeling of joy and pride that the European Master in Human Rights and Democratization, usually called EMA, is celebrating this year its 25th anniversary, and that more than 2,000 graduates of EMA are working as our human rights ambassadors in most countries of the world, and that we can celebrate this remarkable achievement together with the representatives of the EMAlumni Association. This is, however, also a moment of profound sadness. Last Wednesday, when I just had returned with our students from a highly interesting and emotional excursion to Kosovo, which had been organized in the most admirable and professional manner by our Vienna colleague Mariana Grande, I was told by Elisabetta Nolli that our beloved friend and colleague Nicola Tonon had suddenly and unexpectedly passed away. Nicola had been for many years one of the pillars of the Global Campus headquarters, and everybody knew him, students, professors, and staff, as he was the person to whom you would go when you needed an IT or other technological problem to be solved. And he never said no, and he always solved your problems with a big smile on his face or with a joke. Our cloisters seems an empty space without Nicola drinking a cup of coffee and chatting with his colleagues while smoking a couple of cigarettes. Life in the monastery will be different without you, Nicola, but your early death at the young age of 44 also reminds us all that we are a big family within the EMA network, the Global Campus Network, and at our headquarters in Venice. A family where all members, even in times of challenges and tensions, deeply care for each other. I was also deeply saddened when I received the message that Daniela Napoli had passed away on 16 July, the very day when we had our second annual Venice conference on the global state of human rights, organized in partnership with the European Parliament at the time of the Redentore Festival. She would have loved to come and celebrate with us the 25th anniversary of EMA, as EMA is also her baby, and we will later also commemorate it together. Human rights were always violated throughout history, but when the United Nations were created in reaction to the Holocaust and World War II, there was a strong feeling of never again, and a hope that human beings will learn from the past. For the first time in history, every war of aggression was prohibited and to be sanctioned. Development, prosperity, and eradication of poverty was promised for all people on our planet. And human rights based on the common dignity of all human beings were founded as a universal value basis and precondition for both peace and development. And we have come a long way, even during the difficult years of the Cold War, to prevent another world war, strengthen human security, human development, democracy, the rule of law, and human rights for all. The European Union is rightly proud of having united, both economically and politically, a great many countries in Western, Central, and Eastern Europe on the basis of our core values of freedom, democracy, and human rights. Another war between EU member states seems unthinkable. And for most Europeans, war is something of a distant past, and prosperity and human rights are simply taken for granted. This is, however, a dangerous illusion. Human rights can never be taken for granted. Every day, we need to stand up for human rights and defend them in our daily lives against so many local, regional, and global challenges. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, human rights start in the family. Much more needs to be done to protect victims of domestic violence, above all children. We also need to uphold human rights in our classrooms and at the workplace and apply a balanced human rights-based approach, mutual respect, and the principle of proportionality in our discussions, even when we disagree. We need to be much more active and outspoken to tendencies of right-wing populism, racism, homophobia, and xenophobia in our own societies, whether in Italy, where Italians are voting today in elections that might have enormous consequences for the future of Italy and Europe. My own country, Austria, Hungary, or Poland, just to cite a few examples. We further need to take every possible action as individuals, civil society, academics, politicians, members and officials of the EU, the Council of Europe, the OSCE, NATO, and the United Nations to finally put an end to the Russian war against the Ukraine and to bring the perpetrators of this crime of aggression, war crimes, and crimes against humanity to justice. And we need to become much more angry and determined to stand up and combat the real global challenges of our times, such as the global environmental and climate catastrophe, the extensive power of transnational corporations, the outrageous economic inequality of income and wealth, brought about by decades of neoliberal economic policies, the threat of new technologies and disinformation, the disrespect of the rule of law, and the decline of multilateralism. Disinformation is one of the root causes of our current problems, whether the Russian justification of its war in the Ukraine, its efforts to destabilize Europe, the Brexit, the campaign of former US President Trump's stolen election victory, populist voices around the world, whether related to COVID-19 pandemic or the Russian invasion. Human rights education is only the first step to develop in-depth knowledge about human rights, the practical skills necessary to address difficult situations, and a personal attitude that internalizes human rights in your day-to-day encounters with your family, with fellow human beings, classmates and colleagues at the workplace. In a world with huge global challenges, you need to find the courage to publicly stand up for human rights and confront the inactivity and slowness of politicians. Dear graduates of the 2021-22 generation of our joint EMA Master, I most sincerely congratulate you to this success. You should have acquired the necessary knowledge, skills, and attitude to make the world a better place. Each one of you can make a difference, whether in the family, in the classroom, at the workplace, with peers and friends, in the political life of your own country, or at the international level. I wish you much success and fulfillment in your future private and professional life. Please keep in contact with our EMA team and EMAlumni Association. We need you as part of our rapidly growing network of human rights ambassadors, spreading the message of human rights to all corners of our planet. Dear students of the 22-23 generation, I wish you a great start into the fascinating world of human rights and democratization. In addition to studying hard, and you will do, enjoy also Venice and the Lido. I can assure you that you will make many friends who will accompany you throughout your life, and you will never forget your experience at the Lido. Dear EMA team, led this year by the EMA Program Director Orla Cheallacháin, I wish to convey my deep gratitude and admiration for all your professional work, even during highly challenging times. Thank you.
And now Professor Veronica Gomez, President of the Global Campus of Human Rights.
It's an honor to welcome you to this ceremony on behalf of the governing bodies of the Global Campus of Human Rights, the Assembly, including nearly 100 participating universities around the world, and the Global Campus Council, where universities as well as our 7 regional hubs are represented. From diverse geographic and cultural settings, we endeavor to offer education and training in Africa, Asia Pacific, the Balkans, the Caucasus, the Arab world, Latin America and the Caribbean, of course, Europe, and Central Asia as well in the near future, all in the same spirit of commitment to the promotion of human rights and democracy. Our programs and our graduates work with the main stakeholders in all sectors of our regions, and we strive to offer specialized knowledge, quality experiential learning, and unique opportunities for professional networking. We believe in the power of human rights education and training with regional and interdisciplinary perspectives to strengthen the national institutions and the rule of law in our regions while connecting the entire world. This welcome is an expression of gratitude this year again for the support of our funders, the European Commission, Right Livelihood Foundation, especially, the commitment of our many allies in civil society, government, and international organizations around the world, and the trust of nearly 100 universities worldwide that contribute with their academic, human, and material resources to this project, with the conviction that education and training are key to dialogue, understanding, inclusion, development, and to facing challenges at the local and the global level. One of our founding and consistent allies have been the European External Action Service, initially through the memorable Daniela Napoli, and for many years through Patricia Bocchi, a great professional and friend to whom we are indebted. And now we welcome Domenica Buma, whose guidance and support we will much appreciate as well. As it was said by our Secretary General, we're very much moved by the events relating to the loss of our colleague Nicola Tonon. And this is also happening at a moment in which we can go back to our ceremony, as it was mentioned, in its original format after the worst part of the pandemic. And this also coincides with the 25 years of EMA. I was talking to the colleagues about what we should highlight in this welcome. And one of them said we should highlight the then and the now. 25 years ago, there were big human rights challenges. There was upheaval as well, as we're experiencing right now that we feel we are in the middle of a change of epoch. But human rights education was urgent and necessary then, and is urgent and necessary now. In a changing context, with new frameworks for human rights as well, expanding frameworks, challenged frameworks, but the commitment of our students and our professors and the experts participating in the programs are the same. To change the world for the better and to accompany the training and learning trajectories. Every year, we meet here on occasion of the graduation of the Masteroni and the induction of the Masterini into the European Masters. This is an opportunity, you'll see throughout the ceremony, to acknowledge achievement, outstanding contribution, strengthen alliances, celebrate a worldwide partnership. Thank you for your contribution to the promotion of human rights through education and through your intention, your vision to learn and to be part of this endeavor. Thanks to the Masteroni and Masterini for embarking in this journey that connects academic knowledge and ingenuity with the construction of tools to address these challenges faced at the local and the global level. Again, EMA's graduation ceremony and induction ceremony is an opportunity for a global family to be together. Thank you for being here and for being part of this family today and from now on. Thank you.
And now Professor Maria Laura Picchio Forlati of the Scuola Grande di San Rocco.
Good afternoon to everybody here today. It's a great emotion for me to have again from the school the task of greet you here. I have always felt that there is a sort of alliance between the campus of human rights and democratization and the Scuola Grande of San Rocco as one of the big guilds of Venice, created in 1478. It has lasted through the centuries, even through the 19th century, when Napoleon troops closed all the schools, but this school was saved because of the knowledge of the parish of the church with the head of the army invading Venice. It is really a place where the middle class of Venice, the merchants, the artisans found expression for their creativity, for their sense of solidarity, because if the beauty of the buildings were one of the tasks of the Guild, the pursuance of the well-being of the more disadvantaged segments of society in Venice was equally a priority. And therefore, to me, it makes sense to imagine the connection between the campus on human rights and democratization and the School of San Rocco as an alliance of professionals. An alliance in view of what? Now I can simply say in the view of peace, because I believe that human rights and democratization, as well as the social welfare of the disadvantaged segments of society, are all basic instruments for building peace. Of course, for the school, the tools have been the beauty of the place, and every riches were devoted to have it as beautiful as possible, and as we can still see it, as beautiful as possible. But also to build on the tradition of the city, resources to breathe a new climate, and we wait really with anxiety to have you here this year, after 3 years, but also next year. That's why I may assure you our solidarity, the awareness that through human rights and democratization, you will actually build peace, peace for everybody, peace for the old Europe, but for all the continents we are involved in, you will be involved in. And the Scuola Grande of San Rocco wishes with warm feelings to everybody of you to work as professional for peace. And we shall pray for you, as praying is also one of our missions. Thank you.
And now the awarding of the Global Campus Medal of Honor to the late Daniela Napoli, co-founder of the EMA program, introduced by Professor Manfred Nowak, Secretary General of the Global Campus of Human Rights.
Thank you. It was in, I think, early '96 that Daniela Napoli, who was at that time the Human Rights Director of DG Relax of the European Commission, approached Antonio Papisco. Antonio was at that time the director of the Human Rights Center at the University of Padua. And she said, Antonio, can you call your colleagues in the other member states of the European Union? At that time we were 15 member states, started with 9 others, with 10, because we would like to set up a truly pan-European inter-university and transdisciplinary master program in human rights and democratization, not just at the University of Padua, but a joint exercise. And Antonio succeeded very quickly, and only few of the original members whom he called are still there today. One is Paul Lemmens, who will speak afterwards on the 25th anniversary, and Florence Benoit-Romer is also among us. She was one of the founders. And the European Union at that time needed well-educated human rights professionals that are practically skilled to serve in governments, intergovernmental and non-governmental organizations, and above all at that time as human rights field officers in post-conflict peace-building operations. And it all went very quickly. She just said, recruit 5 students from each of the 10 states, and we have 50 students, and we start. And together they managed and organized the first inauguration ceremony on 6 October 1997 in the magnificent Palazzo Ducale. And it was from the very beginning a beautiful partnership, a partnership on an equal participation between, on the one hand, the European Union, the European Commission, providing the necessary funds, and still providing them 25 years later. And on the other hand, the universities providing, free of charge, a lot of time and expertise of some of the best human rights experts and professors in Europe. So that was the very idea, that it is a joint program, that they would come to Venice and teach in the first semester, and the students will then be distributed to these universities in the second semester to have more intensified training and writing their master thesis. And Daniela was amazing. I have deep admiration for all what she did, because she was not only now representing the European Union, she was coming to every meeting. When we developed the curriculum of the program, she had a strong impact. She said, but we need to have a stronger role of the European Union than of the Council of Europe. We need to do that, and also the external relations is very important. And so she really, together with all the professors, under the lead of Antonio Papisca, she developed that program. And she is, if you so wish, the mother of the European Master Program, which later became, as you know, the model for many other similar EU-funded master programs in many regions of the world that today constitute the global campus of human rights. And she always came, she was always present at every of these, not only inauguration and graduation ceremonies. We had so many diplomatic conferences at the time, so many events taking place in Venice, and she always felt ownership. We own this together. It's a joint exercise of some of the best universities in Europe and the European Union. And it's a great honor and pleasure that her husband, Giuseppe Napoli, is today with us, and I would like you to join us on the stage in order to hand over the Medal of Honor of the Global Campus of Human Rights in memory of Daniela, who is very, very close to our hearts. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you.
Professor Nowak, professors, dear friend of EEAS, it's also for me a moment of great emotion to be here today. Daniela was one of the lighthouses of the European Master for many years. She loved this project with passion, I can assure. Great passion. And I think that the EMA remains one of the best dreams of her life. Thank you very much.
And now the keynote speeches by Professor Paul Lemmens, former judge of the European Court of Human Rights and founding member of the EMA program.
Sorry, I'm not going to present the program, I'm going to say something else. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, dear students, dear family and friends of students, it is a pleasure for me to be able to share with you at this ceremony some thoughts at the occasion of the 25th anniversary of the EMA program. That is quite an achievement. And few of those who were at the conception of this program would have dared to bet on this event 25 years later ever to happen. I would like to first say something about the initial ideas behind the program, then about the way it came to life, and finally about the challenges ahead for teachers and students. So first, something about the ideas behind the program, and Manfred has already alluded to that. This program was conceived in 1996-97. There was a growing interest at that time in human rights in Europe and the world. This had been translated in the setting up of human rights master programs and human rights research in a number of universities, and human rights had become part of the EU foreign policy. And it was then, it has been said by Manfred, that Antonio Papisca and Daniela Napoli met somewhere in 1996. And I too would like to bring a tribute to those two founding parents of the program who unfortunately passed away. Antonio, the professor at the University of Padua, the humanist who felt that universities had a responsibility for including a human rights perspective in their teaching. He was charismatic, visionary, delicate and diplomatic, the goodness in person. And he also strongly believed in cooperation between universities. And as Manfred already said, Daniela was the head of the Human Rights and Democratization Unit of the European Commission. She was a very creative and practical person, able to transform ideas into reality. And she was confronted with a need for expert personnel for the Commission's programs, especially for monitoring and electoral observation missions. She told us that she had seen that many people were working in or for international organizations without a specific human rights education. And she was looking to the universities for help. And in order to respond to this request, Antonio Papisca, strongly supported by his own University of Padua, brought together 10 universities to work in a Socrates project on a common human rights teaching program. And Daniela was there, ever present, to ensure the support, including the financial support of the European Commission. But you can imagine, the European Commission and academics, they had to find a compromise. It was not only about the practical aspects of human rights, it was not only about the theory, it had to be something bringing the two things together. So we were looking for a program where we would study the theoretical foundations of human rights as well as their operational aspects. And I checked my notes. On a proposal of Daniela, the program would be named the European Master on Human Rights and Democratization. It's her idea. By the way, the name Masterini was found by the students of the first year, and the name Masteroni was the result of a lapsus by a speaker here during one of the first graduation ceremonies. Now allow me to return a few minutes to the early months of the program, or the prehistory of the program. It was in 1997, basically during 3 meetings, that this program was set up. Only 3 meetings, but very intense ones. To think about it in retrospect, this looks almost like a miracle. For the first preparatory meeting, we were invited in Venice, to the Palazzo Ducale. And I remember that we met in an office from where we had a view on the laguna. Quite impressive. Several of those who were present then would later play an important role in the program. Antonio, of course, Horst Fischer from Bochum, who had the experience of another network on humanitarian assistance, which was very valuable. Florence Benoit-Romer from Strasbourg, the only person from that time who is also present here today. She was able always to diffuse tensions and come up with compromise solutions. There were Attracta Ingram from Dublin, Jaime Ora from Bilbao, Fred Grunfeld from Maastricht, and of course, Daniela Napoli and the Vice Rector of the University of Padua. Ideas were put on the table and critically evaluated. Gradually, the idea emerged of a program with a common core program in one place, followed by courses in each of the participating universities. And when we started our meeting, the idea was that the first semester would take place in Padua. But then during our stay, the mayor of Venice came with an offer to host the program in Venice. We were sitting there, watching the laguna. Needless to say that we were more than attracted by that idea. Venice is an incredible place, a source of inspiration for creative ideas. And so when we left our meeting, we were aiming at setting up a program in Venice. There would be teaching activities in Venice with 1-week blocks for each university based on their specializations. The second semester was not yet so clear. Some weeks later, we had a second preparatory meeting in Bilbao, and it became more concrete. But the more it became concrete, the more questions arose. We were sitting there as professors of human rights departments of our universities, and we were asking ourselves, what are we committing our universities to? Because this is not only for 1 year, this was meant to take longer. And we were not the rectors of our universities. So we were asking all these questions. Obstacles were being raised, and it was then that the vice rector of Deusto, Julia Gonzalez, who was chairing the meeting, at the end of the morning meeting said, after having heard all of this, shall we bury the idea? It was a cold shower. And so in the afternoon we came back, and Antonio said, no, this is not possible. We cannot bury the idea. And he brought us back to higher aspirations. I still hear him saying, there will be hundreds of students. There's a need. We wanted to believe him, but we were not too sure. But anyway, we left Bilbao in good spirits, even in our suitcase with a leaflet describing the basic features of the program, which could be used for the urgent recruitment of students. And finally, we had a seminar in Venice at the Villa Herio. It took place during a full week in July with the participation of quite a number of colleagues and also experts from international organizations and NGOs. It was in part a brainstorming session to obtain information from the international organizations and NGOs about what they expected from us, and also to see what we could offer. And Horst Fischer at one moment exclaimed, too many skills are required. We cannot offer all that. I think we did quite well in the end. The other part of the meeting was to draft a concrete program for the first semester of the first year, and the meeting was closed with the adoption of the Venice Charter, a formal document setting out the basic elements of the cooperation between the founding universities. And that's the beginning of the story. 2 months later, it was the academic opening in Venice. We had the first year of teaching, and it went on and on. And every time, or very often, we met again in Venice. As Daniela once wrote, and it's a little bit ironic, there were endless meetings between professors. I can imagine that sometimes he thought that it never came to an end. But we all had a strong sense of ownership. We defended vigorously our points of view, but usually Antonio's diplomacy solved all the possible problems. And the work continues and continues and now continues with you, my colleagues. Let me end with some challenges for teachers and students. During the 25 years of the EMA program, there have been continuously challenges to human rights and democracy. We had to react to the aftermath of 9/11, 2001, to wars in various parts of the world, to the erosion of human rights in the world, including in Europe. And all these events had a certain impact on the program. At some points, one can perhaps wonder, are the values of human rights and democracy still important today? Yes, they are, for various reasons, and I would like to mention 3 of them. 1, human rights are important for each of us. They allow us to live our lives with a reasonable autonomy. They allow us to develop ourselves, to find happiness, to love, to share. 2, human rights and democracy are also important for our societies. A society is built on certain principles, and it can function as a group when each member knows what he or she can expect from the other members and what is expected from him or her. Human rights, together with the fundamental duties, form the basic social contract that keeps people together and that allows societies to develop peacefully. In short, human rights are essential for a democratic society where everyone can feel that he or she is included and has something to say. And 3, human rights are, perhaps unfortunately, also essential for the preservation of peace within societies and between societies. How to avoid that minorities of all kinds feel excluded and take up the law in their own hands? How to avoid that a regime invokes the bad treatment of a minority in another country as a justification for a military intervention in that other country? It is not a coincidence that the international law of human rights, starting with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948, and then continuing with treaties like the European Convention on Human Rights of 1950, that law was developed in the aftermath of the Second World War as a means, an essential means, to preserve peace in the world and in the various regions of the world. Here in Europe, we may for decades somewhat have lost out of sight this primary aim of human rights. But this year, we were brutally reminded of the link between human rights and peace. Peace. The fortress of San Niccolò was situated at the primary defense line of Venice for many centuries. Now the monastery of San Niccolò should become a place from where to defend human rights. Dear students, to study 1 year abroad is a fantastic experience. To those who start that experience, enjoy whatever this year can bring to you. The widening of your horizon, the sharing of festive moments, the formation of friendships, and many more things. But please, dear students, And dear graduates, let me repeat Manfred's message. Don't forget the very specific nature of this program. It is a program on human rights and democratization. It is based on certain fundamental values. Once you have graduated, you have a certain responsibility to live according to these values and to defend them, whatever the position is that you may occupy in your later life. I wish you a successful year and a successful future. Thank you.
And now Mrs. Friederike Tschampa, Deputy Head of Division Human Rights and Democratization at the European External Action Service, European Union.
Dear students, professors, distinguished guests, I'm delighted to join you here today on behalf of the European Union. At the outset, I'm bringing you warm greetings and congratulations from the European Union's Special Representative for Human Rights, Eamon Gilmore, who would have liked to be here with you today, as he was with your predecessors in 2019 and 2021, but who is still on his way back from New York after a busy week of high-level engagements in the United Nations. Dear graduates, it was already said many times today, this is a day of celebration. It's a celebration of your achievement after an intense year of study and surely inspirational exposure to many human rights academics and practitioners. It's a moment to savor also for your teachers, your families, and your friends who supported you throughout the years. It's a moment of celebrations of the new batch of students who enter on a journey of a lifetime, if I may say, because, as was said before, you will acquire skills, knowledge, and, of course, you will strengthen your commitment. I must say, when I first met your predecessors on a visit to Sarajevo, where I was working as a young legal advisor to the Human Rights Chamber, I think it was in 1999 or the year 2000, I deeply admired the program because me, just a few years older, had to study bits and pieces of public international law, human rights, peace, development in various universities and programs around the world. And here it was, a ready-made, tailored, specialized and multidisciplinary program on human rights and democracy. So I think you're very lucky and congratulations for having been accepted into this program. Today, again mentioned and highlighted many times, we also celebrate the 25th anniversary of the European Masters Program and the Global Campus, which the EU is so proud to have helped to create and supported ever since, with financial contributions, the fielding of speakers and professionals, and the interaction, in part deep interaction, on the program development. A unique center for human rights and democracy learning has so developed in 25 years, with over 100 affiliated universities and the 7 regional hubs that were already mentioned. You're offering a unique program of postgraduate education and training. You're contributing to research and to outreach on human rights and democracy topics. This is a truly impressive operation and achievement. So allow me also to extend special greetings to all the faculty members of the affiliated universities and regional programs who are with us today, and of course to the Secretary General, the faculty and the staff of the Global Campus Center headquartered here in Venice, and of course also the Global Campus Council members. Over 2,000 students, we have heard, have already graduated, qualified from the European Masters Program, And I believe the overall system counts over 4,000 alumni, which is truly an impressive figure. And I'm very happy, as was already mentioned, we consider you as our young human rights ambassadors, and you work around the world with us. High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy of the European Union, Josep Borrell, has recognized the Global Campus as follows. Supporting the Global Campus of Human Rights has been a very important decision. Your global network and various programs focusing on human rights have never been relevant than today. As I said, in this vein, the EU will again, of course, make substantial contributions in terms of funding under the new thematic program for human rights and democracy. And we're also happy to contribute a funding component to receive Afghan scholars at risk, which was conceived together and started last year under an EU crisis facility, but which is molded now into the program. We're doing all of this because human rights and democracy education is and remains a vital instrument to strengthen international human rights and foster democratization, which are key objectives of the European Union's foreign policy, and they directly contribute to upholding universal human rights, pluralistic democracies, and the rule of law. Dear graduates, you now go out into the world and will join the quest for this noble cause, contribute to the defense, to upholding, promoting, and protecting human rights and democracy. You will do this with your commitment, energy, courage, passion, perseverance, and I guess many of you also with their own personal stories and deep motivation. We will be so happy to receive you in the EU institutions and in EU delegations to work with us. You always come with new knowledge, thematic knowledge, new skills, and of course new ways of communicating human rights, which is particularly important in today's world, where, as mentioned, foreign information manipulation and interference is quite common, so all the more important to communicate actively, positively, and in a manner that the young generation understands the cause of human rights and democracy, and to explain again and again and again, well, these are foundations of sustainable development and peace and security. I think you will also come to challenge us in our ways of doing things, introduce new ways, and to imbue our work with the sense of urgency that is absolutely required, and to remind us of the topics which are important for your generation and the generations to come. To the new students, I say, take in as much as you can out of this extremely interesting, well-crafted course of studies. Learn everything, get all the skills, and make as many connections as possible. Manfred has already alluded to it. This is also a community of practice and a community of practitioners. We will work again together, we will meet again, and it is important to stay in touch and to also resource each other, because the fight for human rights and for democracy is not an easy one. And it is very important to be able to base it on like-minded contacts, on friendships, on cooperation around the world. So I also appeal to you to make as much of the connections you can make with students from other continents and world regions during your course of study. The challenges are indeed manifold and huge at the moment. When EOSR Gilmore spoke to students 3 years ago, he was talking about the backsliding of human rights and democracy, the ever greater challenges on human rights defenders, the persecution of journalists and civil society actors, but he was also pointing to the great opportunities that you can derive from the new technologies and the digitalization of the world. Last year, the COVID pandemic, with its enormous impact on the enjoyment of human rights, the exacerbation of inequalities hitting the most vulnerable most, and actually the destruction of 20 or 30 years of progress, also on the social and economic front, was very much in the center of attention of his world. alongside, of course, with the dramatic development in many countries around the world. Belarus, Ethiopia, Myanmar, Afghanistan were on the top of his mind, with large-scale vulnerabilities, as well as, of course, the ever more intense, overt and concerted attacks on the multilateral system perpetrated by some actors. And this year, we are confronted with an unthinkable war of aggression and grave violations of international law, humanitarian law, and international human rights law in Europe. And while deeply shocked, of course, each and every one of us who were working in the system, we've tried to raise to that challenge, mobilize the multilateral fora, mobilize the United Nations, as the UN Security Council couldn't take action, try to bring about condemnation of these developments, try to bring about the necessary humanitarian reaction and also some other reaction. And we have, of course, also done everything possible to support accountability efforts, strengthen the International Criminal Court, the national authorities of Ukraine, and worked intensely on international coordination of these efforts while rededicating our programs for the support of the civil society, human rights defenders, and journalists in Ukraine, but also in neighboring countries and even in Russia, where many people have either left or are trying to protest under extremely difficult circumstances. I won't have enough time to go over the programmatic and other commitment, the policies, the action plans, and so on that the EU has brought in to react to the multiple challenges that were given out. But I wanted to make one more point that I think is important and will be important to your student body, because it is in the global campus setting coming from around the world. So at the time in which, of course, we in Europe are reeling under the shock of the developments in Ukraine, the high-level week in New York last week has just reminded us of the economic and social consequences of the war for the developing world. Their immediate food security, but also the attainment of sustainable development goals, the 2030 Agenda, and the Paris Agreement are absolutely threatened. The new sense of global interdependence has never been stronger felt than before, and it was aptly described on Thursday by Ghana's president, Nana Akufo-Addo, when he said, "Every bullet, every bomb, every shell that hits a target in Ukraine hits our pockets and our economies in Africa." I think this brings home the fact that everything that we're doing is interconnected, and that, of course, peace and security, the violations of human rights, and the prospects for social developments around the whole world are deeply, deeply interwoven. This means for me as well, and perhaps this is a reply to what many find are daunting times, are unsurmountable challenges, are overpowering development. This leads me back to the founding moment of the United Nations, which of course obviously stood for the very same challenge, and in its charter had integrated human rights and democracy, peace and security, and development as one cause for the international community to be attained through international cooperation and, of course, understanding and friendly relations. Having said that, or from this perspective, it could not be more fitting that you are embarking on your year of study as we are ushering in the 75th anniversary year of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And it provides an opportunity to recall many facts that are ever more meaningful today about that declaration. It was drafted by representatives with different legal and cultural backgrounds after a deep study of the foundations of the rights that were enshrined and principles enshrined in all world regions. It defined a common standard of achievement, setting out fundamental human rights to be universally protected, covers the whole range of rights, and it's to all human beings without distinction of any kind. And it contains the commitment to the full realization of these rights, so not just rights as aspirations, but rights as a living reality. I need to close, so I want to briefly speak to you about the Biennale, because I understand it's a good practice to end this address with a quote or an impression from the Biennale. So I give you my try with a quote from a country pavilion, by the way, from the pavilion of Armenia. It is as follows: one starts by merely imagining real things. Eventually, the real things themselves manifest. I'd like to take this as a tribute to the power of ideas, as a hopeful statement confirming that visions can become reality, and I do think the founders of this program have actually lived up to this vision. They have envisioned a program and it has become a reality, and it is a sustainable and fantastic endeavor. I also would like to ask, or let me say, that I hope we'll continue to imagine a world in which human rights and democracy become the living reality of all people. And I hope it is a motivation for us to make our contribution and to be persistent and impactful and proactive about this matter. With this, I wish you a very good year of studies, and to those who go out in the world, a fantastic professional experience and parcours in the field of human rights and democracy. Thank you very much.
And now Mr. Vladimir Slivyak, co-founder of Ecodefense and Right Livelihood Laureate 2021.
Thank you very much. It's very nice ceremony here. I mean, I like the place and so many happy people, and I really congratulate professors and students. I mean, it's all really great. Unfortunately, it's very sad historic moment. There is Russian invasion going on in Ukraine, and people dying every day. And as every war, it's a human rights disaster. And I think it's very important to learn the lessons and to understand how did it happen and why it's happening today. And I will try to tell you this little story. When Vladimir Putin regime in Russia came, almost 23 years ago, they came to power. Everybody thought it's, I mean, okay, guys. I mean, they didn't look so bad. They didn't say any, I don't know, anything against Ukraine or against anyone else. They looked pretty much democratic. But from nearly every day, from nearly the first days of this regime, it's been like they've been taking pieces of our rights. Like they almost immediately from beginning, like starting from 2000 or 2001, Vladimir Putin regime in Russia started to put a lot of pressure on the civil society, first of all on the human rights organizations, environmental organizations, and other civil society organizations, because they were so much afraid that we have the attention of Russian people and we can tell Russian people to disobey or something else. So they were afraid of us, and they started to make our life bad. They were changing the laws. They were, you know, making our accounting norms stronger. They were demanding from us to give more and more reports every year, sorry. And then in 2005, they changed the law on the referendums in Russia. Previously, people on the local level in Russia, before 2005, could actually hold referendum on some specific issues, political issues in their regions. After 2005, people couldn't really decide for themselves anymore. Later, Vladimir Putin regime started to label civil society organizations as a foreign agents. And the expression foreign agents in Russia refers to 1930s, the time of a great terror, when millions of people been killed, when the courts been convicting them of foreign spies, foreign agents. So Vladimir Putin regime reintroduced these rhetorics. They started to include, my organization became the first environmental organization in Russia which became foreign agent, and then other human rights organizations being included to the list of foreign agents. And you might remember this thing from 1930s from Nazi Germany, that when they came for communists, I didn't protest because I'm not communist. When they came for Jews, I didn't protest because I'm not Jews. And when they came for me, then there was no one to protest anymore. Something like that been happening in Russia, because when a regime came for civil society, no one really protested. People didn't protest, and reporters didn't really care much about it. There was just few articles. But then later, Vladimir Putin regime started to label reporters as foreign agents. And then later, they decided to label normal people as foreign agents. So now, today in the year 2022, every free media in Russia either closed down or labeled foreign agent and not able to work in Russia. There are a lot of people labeled as on a personal level as a foreign agents, and the civil society and the human rights groups almost do not exist anymore in Russia. That's one part of the story. And the second part of the story, with the first part of the story, I mean that part of the reason why Russian regime was able so easily to start war in Ukraine this year was because the civil society that could protest this, that could try to stop it, was basically destroyed entirely during the regime of Vladimir Putin. But then there is second part of this story, because to start a full-scale war, you need to have a lot of money. And how Vladimir Putin got this money? From European Union, by selling fossil fuel and the nuclear fuel to European Union. In the last year alone, Russia got 100 billion euro for exports of a fuel to European Union. This year, it will be 3 or even more than 3 times higher. And all this money, hundreds of billions of euros, turning today into guns and tanks and rockets and missiles that killing people in Ukraine. So, that's basically how and why this war was started, and that's how it became possible for Vladimir Putin to run this war. And the European Union had, since 2014, had the regulation about reducing dependence on the Russian fuel. But politicians in the European Union didn't do anything about it. When the war started, Russia was supplying almost half of the natural gas to European Union, and almost half of a hard coal to European Union, and to 27% of oil. And of course, that's a very big dependence. You cannot just press the button and stop it immediately, right? You have to find an alternative. But it's very important to understand that there was the regulation, European regulation in place since 2014, which was targeting this dependence on Russian fuel, and most of our politicians in Europe didn't do anything. And that's why today it's so difficult to stop buying fossil fuel and the nuclear fuel from Russia, and so difficult to stop subsidizing Ukrainian war by buying the fuel from Vladimir Putin. And I want to finish my speech with saying, first of all, to students, that your work in the future will be extremely important. Your work will be to guarantee that there will be no more wars in the future and there will be no more human rights disasters in the future. And unfortunately, politicians doing mistakes, and I mean, even civil society is sometimes doing mistakes. All can do mistakes. But I believe it's very important to stick to human rights ideals. It's very important to work on democratization and promoting human rights around the world, because that's the only way to peace. I mean, there will be no peace without human rights. Thank you very much.
I now invite our musicians, the interpreti veneziani, that will play for us Vivaldi's concerto per due violini, violoncello, archi e cembalo, opera 3 numero 11, estro armonico. And now the address by the student representatives, Mrs. Bríana, Keogh, and Mrs. Alannah, Owens.
Hello. Before we begin, we'd like to take this moment to share our condolences and sympathies on behalf of the students for the passing of Nicola Tonon.
Good afternoon. This is your final student rep announcement. In this wonderfully diverse EMA and global campus setting, we will now begin the train of Irish women that will address you this afternoon.
So, congratulations, guys. We've done it. The day's finally come. We've got the laurel crowns, and Yvonne bought a long pair of trousers. It's been a big year. We've lived in at least 2 different countries. We've met fascinating people. We've overcome challenges, had debates, widened and deepened our knowledge on human rights and the skill sets required to work in the field. And we've managed to stand by each other in solidarity, respect, and friendship.
When we and our luggage accompanied the hum of the vaporettas across the lagoon to Lido for the first time 1 year ago, who would have thought that it would bring us to such a haven, such an adventure, and we were on the cusp of a unique and life-changing experience where many, many memories were about to be made. While the suitcases we leave with in the coming days may be lighter than the ones we arrived with, the volume of knowledge and experience we are coming away with knows no bounds.
We didn't all arrive in Lido at the same time. COVID had other ideas for that. But it was only a matter of weeks until all 75 of us invaded the monastery and it began to feel like home. Thankfully, although masks were still mandated, we were lucky to be able to have loads of in-person classes. And after today, while 5 lucky students will be awarded the top theses, 5 more can add COVID ventilation officer to their CV.
The Alannah, with its open doors and sometimes chilly runway for the many topics we were exposed to, yet between fashion statement of winter season, fingerless gloves, and the fire that the lecturers lit in our hearts and minds, we were ignited to engage with curiosity and fervour, no matter the conditions of the world around us. Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, whilst we gathered in the same classrooms, there were over 50 lecturers that visited or dialed in on Zoom and transformed the atmosphere. Combined with the constant presence of Orla, George, Zoe, and Chiara, we could digest a whole host of new ideas, and we were truly grateful for their unyielding efforts. No 2 days were the same, and an exciting learning environment was created. We were accommodated in so many ways, and it's hard to remember how hybrid things were at times. But wait, can everyone in the Nelson Mandela room hear me okay?
Refueling at the canteen got us through the busy, sometimes seemingly endless days. Odd and even numbers first, trying to maintain social distances through the cloister in single file and filling out the menus. What an excitement time. We may have driven poor Daniela, Elisabetta and Sarah around the bend for forgetting to submit them on time, but their patience and commitment to ensuring that we were looked after in all aspects of our Lido life is deeply thanked.
And who could help but smile when you came out to the warm welcome of our canine mascot, Janice, always ready at the most pivotal moments. But our experience of semester 1 was not only limited to our little corner of Lido at the Riviera San Nicolo. We traversed the bridges of Venice City Marathon as the team of runners, brought the outside in with the amazing spread of films and speakers that the film festival crew secured. We had parties and picnics, walks and swims, sunrises and sunsets, courtesy of the beach, and gave it a clean-up in return. Not to mention the celebrity visit that Manskin paid to our Halloween party, listened into by our resident AirPods. The Kioscos, especially Bríana, will hold a special place in our hearts for all the chats and introductions they fostered, and where we discovered that we are not only the movers and shakers of the next generation of human rights practitioners, but also on the dance floor.
Some years can pass from one to the next without feeling like much has happened. This year, it's almost like we've lived 2 in 1. Our second semester was a challenge in transition, changing our scenery once again and having to separate ourselves from what became an almost cult-like atmosphere we created in Lido. The opportunity to travel in the second semester is no doubt one of the most attractive elements of the EBA programme, giving us the opportunity to expand our social and our academic networks. It taught us how to adapt and take advantage of the cards we're dealt, even when out of our comfort zone or difficult in other respects. Although we were writing our theses by ourselves, we had handwritten letters we'd wrote to each other, Zoom quizzes, and shut up and write sessions to make sure we didn't feel like we were doing this alone.
As we come together again 1 year on from our first arrival in Lido, first in Kosovo and now for these celebrations in Venice, we're overwhelmed by the sense of awe and accomplishment. Looking around us, it is beautiful to see that we can simultaneously slot together again as if no time has passed, but also look around at each other and see how much everyone has grown this past semester. Now, as we prepare to part ways again, while it may be sad that we won't be surrounding each other with laughs, debates, and stories, we have no doubt that the friendships and networks we've formed can stay firm. When we reunite in a few years' time, we will have yet more to share and look forward to seeing it all. And in the meantime, with WhatsApp and Instagram, we won't miss a thing. Reach out. We're here.
We all knew this year would be intense, as advertised, and expected to be a little overwhelmed with the workload and with frustrations and at times despair that comes with studying human rights. But what we didn't expect was to be overwhelmed with the compassion shown to one another, friendships and laughs we won't forget. And to the new class of 2022 and 23, we hope it's the same experience. Leaving Venice now and onto our next journey, questions about what it was like to actually live and navigate the famous city of canals may arise. And we have to resign to admit that yes, you can fall in the canals on a night out. And yes, it will always be hilarious.
The sun may be setting on our time as EMA students in Lido, but it is only just rising on the road ahead as EMA graduates. As they say, diamonds are made under pressure, and we sure are coming away from this experience as a jewellery box of Mascheroni. It has been a year full of growth for all of us at EMA. We study and work in the field of human rights and democratisation, and this often goes hand in hand with an urgency to change and challenge injustice, to solve situations of rights violations that we see around us in the world. When you have studied fundamental frameworks and systems of human rights as we have, sometimes the way forward is clear, but sometimes it is more uncertain. When faced with a new puzzle, a complex challenge, we may often be required to stop, talk, and grow. Our wish is that as we go into the world after such a year of learning and development, that we continue to take a step back, reflect critically on ourselves and the world around us, engage in two-way collaborative dialogues, and support each other in a lifelong process of positive change. May we go with strength, self-care, and awareness that this critical growth may not always be easy, but underpinned by dignity, justice, and respect, it is certainly worthwhile.
Global affairs and the state of human rights in the world today and its environment can be a difficult and tiring field to dedicate a career to. But today we see strength and determination across the Scuola, and this graduation provides us with courage and assurance that we are on the path to participate in the minimisation of suffering and the maximisation of lives that are fulfilling, and crafting a world that we are proud of. No matter where our next steps take us, whether we pursue jobs in this field or others, we have a common operating system and a certainly unique shared experience that will keep us connected. It was a truly enriching experience to be student representatives. Whilst undeniably challenging at times, we're honestly sad it's come to an end. We learned more this year than any other, and for this we are grateful for every interaction that has contributed to this feeling.
We can only believe that the future of the world has to be bright when minds and hearts like these who sit in front of us and who can't be present today but tune in remotely are the next generation. Thank you so much to the entire EMA family, the Global Campus Network, for everything that you have taught us this year. To all those at the monastery who have looked after us, all those in our second semester who have cared for us, and all those near and far who have supported us before this year and will continue to do so afterwards. And finally, ai cittadini di Venezia, grazie mille per averci ospitati. È stato un piacere vivere qui con voi.
Thank you.
And now the awarding of diplomas to the EMA graduates 2001-2002, introduced by Dr. Orla and Cheallacháin, EMA Program Director, and EMA professors. Rectors and professors are invited to come to the front of the podium to deliver the diplomas. I will call the name of the university and professors, and Orla will call the students by name, and EMA rectors and directors will hand out the diplomas together. In the order, there's a slight change. We start with the University of Athens. One of the students graduating will try to meet its right to vote, and so we are anticipating her delivery in the first place. So the University of Athens will be called first.
Okay, I'm the third Irish voice, and I can't promise that I have the same beautiful Italian as Alannah just showed us all. Dear Masterini, almost Masteroni, I have received many words of thanks from both those of you in front of me, but also those behind me in the last few days for the past year. And I just want to take this opportunity to say that, firstly, we have a very dedicated and strong EMA team, which I lead, but is made up of, Chiara, Zoe, Sarah Tassoni, and Daniela Lamattina, who have moved on, and also now Martina Ubernati and Elisabetta Zanaro. And it's an enormous team effort, and I just want to say on your behalf to extend those thanks that I received today to the whole EMA team. But it's also true that there isn't a single department in Global Campus Headquarters, that doesn't have a hand in the EMA program. That starts with Professor Nowak, Professor Ulrich, dear Elisabetta Noli, but also every department that has their offices in headquarters. And particularly Nicola and Gaia were instrumental in the delivery of your year, the first semester. They literally kept the lights on, the sound on. And if the answer to, can you hear us in the Nelson Mandela, had been asked without them, the answer would always have been no. So I just want to firstly say congratulations to all of you, but secondly, thank everybody in Global Campus Headquarters for making this year the success that it was.
So in representation of Panteion University, Athens, the EMA chairperson, Professor Thérèse Murphy.
Okay. Vittoria Catalfamo. Femke de Wit. And the third student who attended Athens is, I hope, following us online. So please join me in congratulating Stefania Maldonado Chaparro.
For the University of Vienna, the EMA Director, Professor Dr. Christina Binder.
Claudia Di Freitas Aguirre. Yora Lumezzi. João Povaz Figueira Verradelo.
For the University of Graz, the EMA Director, Professor Gerd Oberleitner.
Oceane Crabbe. And in absentia, Najiba Haidari.
For Catholic University of Leuven, the EMA Director, Professor Koen Lemmens.
Vipika Growth. Sharola Papastanafaki. Anna-Sophie Bisgaard-Usador.
For Université Libre de Bruxelles, the EMA Director, Professor Julien Piret.
Lydia Garcia Duenas.
In representation of Sofia University, San Clemente Dirski, the EMA Chairperson, Professor Thérèse Murphy.
Beatrice Gelders. Charlotte Skins Igsund.
For the University of Zagreb, in representation of the EMA Director, Dr. Dario Ceppo.
Tatiana Antoni. Eduardo Padrón Hernández.
For the University of Cyprus, the EMA Director, Professor Calliope Agapio Iosefides.
Alessia Bergignon. Amelie Gunther. Catherine O'Carroll.
For Masaryk University Brno, the Vice Rector, Professor Bretislav Danskak.
Ibon Reyes Izaguirre.
For the University of Southern Denmark, Danish Institute of Human Rights, the Delegate of Director, Professor Tim Jensen, and the EMA Director, Eva Maria Lassen.
Nina Nerva.
For the University of Tartu, in representation of the EMA Director, Dr. Katre Luhama.
Anne-Sophie Schleiden.
For Åbo Academy University, Director Professor Mikael Lindfeld, and the EMA Director Professor Elina Piriataniemi.
Tyler Bloom. Anna Doneva.
For Université de Strasbourg, the EMA Director, Professor Florence Benoit-Romer.
Oana Contras. And Miranda Kajtazi, who is following us online. Maida Polinari.
For Université de Montpellier, the EMA Director, Professor Christophe Maubernard.
Andrejka Preti. Candela de la Cruz Caratala.
For Ruhr University Bochum, the Vice Rector, Professor Isolde Karle, and the EMA Director, Professor Hans-Joachim Heinze.
And a warm congratulations to Isha Mandel, who's following online. And we have Jorge Mario Soto Tirado. Kautar Tarauzi.
For the University of Hamburg, the EMA Director, Dr. Patricia Schneider.
And Liane Martinez Moya. And congratulations to Daniela Tomasate, who is also following online.
For Aristotle, University of Thessaloniki, the EMA Director, Professor Despina Clavanidu.
David David Katz-Rodnitsky. Piera Villaluna.
For Etvus, Loran University Budapest, Professor Balat Smaiteni.
Amalia Mercatu. Alex Margaret McIntosh. Margot Judith Joanna Pinnenberg.
Representing National University of Ireland, Galway, the EMA Director, Professor Thérèse Murphy.
Phoebe Shepherd.
For National University of Ireland, University College Dublin, the EMA Program Director, Dr. Graham Finlay.
A warm congratulations to Kim Aku, who is following online. And Christina Bundenstam. Maruna Simona Dinu.
For the University of Padua, the EMA Director, Professor Paolo De Stefani.
Stella Agnasnostopoulou. Leonor Sofia Sequeira Durate.
Representing Ca' Foscari, University of Venice, the Vice Rector, Professor Fabrizio Marrella.
Stephanie Della Barra. Is she here? Rebecca Elizabeth Steinblecker.
For Vilnius University, the EMA Director, Professor Thomas Davulis.
Lisa Dolan.
For Université de Luxembourg, the EMA Director, Professor Robert Alexander Harbsen.
Patricia Joanna Pax. Patricia. Helena Vodopia.
For after. So for the University of Coimbra, the EMA Director, Professor Jonatas Machado.
Anna Bisofi. Alec Maloney.
For Universidade Nova Lisboa, representing the EMA Director, Professor Helena Pereira de Melo.
Bríana Keogh. And congratulations to Carrie-Anne Marco, who's following online. Katerina Picchio.
For the University of Bucharest, the EMA Director, Professor Radu Karp.
Maria Schneider.
For the University of Ljubljana, the EMA Director, Professor Petra Rotter.
Stavdor. Lee Chambers Sherwood.
For the University of Deusto Bilbao, the Dean of the Faculty of Law, Professor Gemma Tomas, and the EMA Director, Professor Felipe Gomez.
Anju Anna John. Nicholas Hewitt. Ayaz Kado.
In representation of the University of Seville, the EMA Chairperson, Professor Thérèse Murphy.
Mirtsana Beksaiti. Suzanne Friedel. I'll do that again. Suzanne. Claudio Ribeiro Kraus.
For Lund University, the EMA Director, Dr. Karol Nowak.
Sophie Helena Di Mulder. Okay. Mohammed Nihad Mohammed.
For Uppsala University, the EMA Director, Professor Anna Sara Lind.
Shannon Brenda Bothoff. Chiara Lunghi.
Representing Maastricht University, the EMA Chairperson, Professor Thérèse Murphy.
Percy Elena Virginia Carter.
For Utrecht University, the EMA Director, Professor Antoine Buis.
Gerard Paituvi Sanchez. Chiara Pasuelo. Thomas Benjamin Pearson.
For the University of Nottingham, the Delegate of the Rector, Professor Shearer West.
Marina Falco di Barros Carvalho Ficara.
And for Queen's University Belfast, the EMA Director and EMA Chairperson, Professor Thérèse Murphy.
Lotte Conning. Congratulations, Master Roney.
I know a lot of enthusiasm, but we have to carry on with the awards. So the awarding of the EMA internships and announcement of the EMA awarded thesis 2021-22, introduced by Professor Thérèse Murphy, chairperson of EMA.
Good afternoon, everyone. I've got two tasks this afternoon, and both of them are a privilege. My first task is to acknowledge the achievements of specific students who are graduating at the top of this year's class. Before I complete this task, I want to pause and ask you to acknowledge the teachers, the supervisors, the librarians, the IT support officers, the many others who helped you to achieve these exceptional grades. So I propose we give all of those people a round of applause. Thank you. So I'm about to announce in alphabetical order the individuals who achieved the highest grades on EMA 21-22. I congratulate them. And as you may know, to recognize their achievement, we give each of these students an internship. We offer an internship to each of these students. They'll be eager to know when they get the details. They'll receive a message by Wednesday, the 28th of September, I'm told. Now, normally it's 15 students who receive this particular recognition. This year, it's going to be 16 students. That's because 2 students tied on the same grade. So, in alphabetical order, Anu, Anna, John. Andre Capretti. Vittoria Catalfamo. Oana Contras. Osine Krabbe. Femke de Wit. Stav Dor. Anne-Sophie Scheidlen. Bríana Keogh. Lotte Koning. Carrie Ann Marcotte. Alex McIntosh. Eduardo Padron Hernandez. Charula Papastefanaki. Margot Pinnenberg. And finally, Helena Vodopia. Congratulations to one and all. Very well done indeed. My second and final task this afternoon is to announce the awarded theses. As you will know, every EMA student completes an extended research and writing project during their second semester under the supervision of a professor at one of our participating universities. Following the assessment, we then consider a number of these for publication, for the prize of awarded thesis. And we select 6 in total, 5 as EMA awarded theses, and 1 as the Global Campus of Human Rights awarded thesis. So here are this year's awarded theses. Supervised by New University of Lisbon in Portugal, with a title of Pre-Implantation Genetic Testing, the Conflict Between Reproductive Autonomy and Disability Rights. It's Bríana Keogh. Congratulations, Bríana. Number 2, supervised by the National University of Ireland, Galway, with the title Imperialist Queerphobia, the Curtailment of LGBTQ+ Rights in Uganda and South Africa as a Product of Colonialism, Religion and Patriarchy. It's Phoebe Shepherd. Number 3, supervised by the University of Tartu in Estonia, with a title, At Risk of Falling Through the Cracks, the Protection of Children in State Care in Conflict Situations in International Law and Practice. It's Anne-Sophie Scheidler. Number 4, supervised by Maastricht University in the Netherlands, with a title Universal Legal Capacity for Persons with Disabilities, Will, Preferences and Communication. It's Percy Carter. Number 5, supervised by the University of Luxembourg in Luxembourg, with a title, When the Terrorists Speak the Language of Humanity, Counter-Memory of the 15th of July Attempted Coup d'etat. It's Helena Vodopia. And number 6, the Global Campus Prize, supervised by the University of Montpellier in France, with a title, Growing Up in a World on Fire, Children Take Center Stage in the Strategic Climate Litigation Movement. It's Andre Capretti. Sincere congratulations to all of you, and thank you for the privilege of being able to read such wonderful theses. Thank you very much.
We have now the presentation of the EMAlumni Award 2022, introduced by Mrs. Jessica Fiorelli, President of the EMAlumni Association, and presented by Dr. George Ulrich, Academic Director of the Global Campus of Human Rights. The award is a glass sculpture entitled Collective Memory, generously donated by artists Koen van Mechelen and Fondazione Berengo.
Hi, hello everybody. I'm loving the energy in this room. It makes me want to do the EMA all over again. I'm honored to be here on this very special day in a very special place that marks the end and the start of a journey. I'm the EMAlumni president, and the EMAlumni is the home of all EMA graduates. So first of all, a heartfelt congratulations to this year's Masteroni, the 25th generation of human rights and democracy defenders. And welcome to the EMAlumni community. You've joined a new family. Secondly, a big good luck to all the new students who've just embarked on this wonderful adventure. The EMA leaves a big print on our lives, and every student leaves one on the EMA program. We connect in our passion and our belief for a better and brighter world, and we also connect on a deep human level. We, as the EMAlumni, strive to give a space for that connection, because it's together that we are strong and that we have a voice. It's together that we can make change happen, and it's together that we shape our world. So, in the spirit of awards, I'm here in front of you all to announce this year's winner of the EMAlumni Award, which is now in its 4th edition. It's an award that is given to alumni who have done incredible work on human rights and democracy. So I'm very happy to hand out this year's award, kindly donated by Koen van Mechelen and Fondazione Berengo, to a special alum, a woman who's been fighting relentlessly for child rights and who means a lot to the EMAlumni community. As a vector of connection, constantly engaged, a former president of the EMAlumni Association. So please help me to give a warm welcome and a big congratulations to Veronica Lersch.
So as Academic Director of the Global Campus, I'm delighted to award the EMAlumni Award to Veronica. It's the sculpture Collective Memory, which symbolizes both how the hopes and aspirations of future generations rest on the foundation of human rights and international law, but also how we rely on the next generations to breathe new life into and reshape the international normative foundation. And I'll just share one word of personal recollection. We've heard a lot about the celebration of the creation of the EMA program and its founders, including Daniela Napoli. I come from Denmark, and the Danish Institute for Human Rights joined the program, not in the first, but in the second year. And we received students in the spring of 1999 at the Danish Institute of Human Rights. And among the students received were Veronica. And I saw you through the initial thesis process and graduation. And I followed very closely your career and your success, and we've interacted in many different ways, and I couldn't think of a better recipient. I want to say that. Huge congratulations, and also really a source of inspiration for the next generations of alumni. So, Veronica.
First of all, congratulations to all the new Masteroni, and it warms my heart to hear your student representatives, because they said a lot of what I already wanted to say. And also, I feel very much aligned with what has been said by Paul Lemmens and Manfred Nowak already before me. So I think a lot is going to be a repeat, but it's actually a good sign. It shows that we are very aligned as a community. And I was one of those students in the 99 trip to Sarajevo, so we might have met. And definitely, I'm thinking about the founders, Daniela Napoli and Antonio Papisca, because I had the pleasure of meeting them, being of the second generation. The generation who lived in the monastery, so it's not a mess, it existed. All right. So we want to think of ourselves as islands, independent from all the other islands, self-sufficient and self-reliant, self-made. I strongly believe that self-sufficiency is a myth that is harming us. It became clear to me when I worked more with young people transitioning from care placement, be it, and I say one of the students worked on this, a care placement, an institution, or a foster care placement. So this transition from a care placement to what the people said was an independent life. Those young people, most of the time, do not have a family or relative to fall back on in times of crisis. It became clear to me that words we use do matter and influence our actions and, of course, our work. If we do speak of interdependence, we acknowledge that we need to rely on each other and build communities. If we speak of interdependence, it changes, for instance, the way we work with those young people and the help they need to build their support networks. You might wonder what the link is between what I just said and the award. It is that since I've been informed that I was going to receive this award, I felt rather awkward, embarrassed, and humbled. What helped me to overcome my embarrassment is to remember that I'm not an island, and that I can accept this award, keeping in mind the archipelago I come from and belong to. With this idea of interdependence in mind, I've tried my best to foster the alumni community from our master, but also the global one. We are many, and our diversity is our force. We need to support each other and understand the many ways in which we can apply human rights in our lives and our work. I urge you to keep questioning what human rights mean to you and what it looks like in practice. We've often learned to look at the ways human rights are violated, but not at the ways the world would look like if human rights were realized to the fullest. So create that vision, keep that vision, and let your anger and frustration be a useful tool for your actions towards a hopeful future. Your work life might bring you disillusion and bitterness, maybe, but I urge you to keep connecting to your fellow alumni, to rely on each other, and to keep working on that better version of ourselves and of this world. And I actually learned I was reminded of the word of Silvia Federici, the great feminist, actually called re-enchanting the world. So let's re-enchant the world together. And do keep talking about love, care, compassion. You've mentioned it. We've been distancing ourselves of those words by fear of not sounding professionals, but the truth is our work has less impact without those values. As the French poet Paul Éluard said, another word is possible, but it is within this one. So in hope and solidarity, I accept this award and congratulate all the other alumni nominated. Thank you very much.
Now our final award is of the Global Campus Visual Contest 2022, introduced by Professor Veronica Gomez, Global Campus President.
Okay, last item before we take our pledge for the new academic year. So the Global Campus Visual Contest is dedicated to enhancing synergies between academia, human rights defenders, and artists, and provides a vehicle to raise awareness on specific human rights issues through art. Every year, the contest considers the work of photographers and video makers, both professional and amateur, from all over the world. This year, the contest was dedicated to the theme Business, Activity, and Impact on Human Rights, Challenges, and Hopes for a Better Future. It is my pleasure then to share with you that the 2022 Global Campus Visual Contest winner was the Australian photographer Catherine McPhee for the picture, The Dance. Catherine sets the scene of a work in a rice mill in Bangladesh where, in order to survive, many bonded laborers must take loans from mill owners and face a never-ending cycle of debt. The prize awarded to Catherine consists of a one-to-one workshop with the Bangladeshi photographer G.A.B. Akash in Dhaka. The Global Campus will display her work through its hubs and partners all over the world. So, congratulations to the winner, and thank you.
We come now to the closing of our ceremony, but inauguration of EMA 2022-2023, introduced by professors of the EMA universities. Professors, students, and guests will read the solemn formula to declare the academic year 2022-2023 open, which you find written at the bottom of the ceremony program. Please stand up. Bearing in mind the principles of the international law of human rights and in the spirit of inter-university cooperation, we declare open the 25th academic year of the European Master's degree in Human Rights and Democratization. And interpreti veneziani will come to close with the music from Beethoven's Ode ad den Freude from 9th Symphony for harp. The professors will now leave the stage in procession, and then thank you for your participation.